Hey guys, Mike here. So, all right. And boy, what about Tesla? Holy moly. Congrats to whoever swung it, long it, bought calls, whatever you did. Because, man, 22%. Holy cow. That was a move, let me tell you. And we'll go through the charts, the highlights on the earnings, also what really kept driving it because it kept going up just all day. It kept grinding and grinding and grinding. And you knew the way it was moving, what stock wasn't going to move very much. It was going to be NVIDIA. You just, again, those two, for whatever reason, they can go down together, but coming up, I don't know. There's only room for one in the car, I guess. But, we'll get into that. Also looking at really what's happening with this bounce right now. Is it sustainable? We're going to look at that as well, especially a couple stocks. Man, there was one stock. I couldn't find any news on it. But it comes out. It's trading like a meme stock over the last 3 weeks. And then I finally found something, or the reason. But getting into Tesla first, and then we'll go into the rest of it. You can just see, huge move up. Oh, look at that candle. Look at that gap, right? So we get to see how the market's going to digest this one. But as I told the members, when you look at the highlights on this thing, they jumped 13% out of the gates, and then just kept going another almost 10% for the rest of the day. But what happened was Elon, he got on there and he did his job on the call, man. Remember, it used to not be this way, but now I think he kind of learned the trick on these calls. But again, they missed actual earnings, what they thought it was going to be, revenues, that is. But it was all about the margins, right? And so for them, you can see here Tesla posted adjusted EPS 0.72 versus 0.60. On adjusting net income right there, free cash flow 2.9 billion. But it was the gross margins came in at 19.8%, much higher than the 16.8% expected. Remember, they were under pressure for that, right? Cutting prices, all that stuff. And then, of course, he comes out, and this is what I say, he's learning these calls, man. Elon Musk added during the conference call that 20 to 30% growth next year is possible, though he couched it as a best guess. And this is probably the best meme of the day I saw going viral was if anybody is still short Tesla, that's a short squeeze of the century on that one, right? But you can see right here, once again, look how much, this is about lunchtime. Tesla accounted for over 27% of all traded volume among individual tickers. NVIDIA is number 2, and not even close. It was like 9, almost 10%, right? Just straight up, just calls upon calls upon calls. People were getting in like after lunch, still making money on it, right? And you can see, there it is. It just kept going up, just kept grinding and grinding and grinding as those calls just kept getting bought and bought and bought. And when we look at this, you can see right here, now we got 3 touches. We got ourselves a trend line, right? This is a huge, huge move. Obviously going into Friday, going into the weekend. We'll see if there's going to be profit takers. We'll see how the market's going to digest this for sure. No doubt about it, because, that's one of the biggest gaps, if not, that may be one of the biggest gaps I've seen on Tesla in years, actually. I think I even read something that said this is the biggest day for Tesla since 2013. There was a week, it was up almost 60% in 1 week. Back in 2013. Now, looking at some stuff here, you got the RSI. Obviously, bulls are back in charge. Nowhere near overbought, by the way. On the weekly, you can see right here, too. This is why it's always important to look at the weekly RSI to see if it drops below the 50, to see if bears are taking charge on a higher time frame. They did not. You can see back here when it was selling down. That's normally what you'll see right there. It will break that moving average, go below the 50. But in this case, it just kept sitting here. And you're going to hear the term island reversal all for like next week probably, because that's basically what they call this, when it just sits there in that range at the bottom where it was sitting at, and then it pops back up. It was just sitting on an island all to itself. And so that's basically what you got. And it's powerful. And so that's basically what happened. But when you pull up the volume profile, clearly, you pull back here. This right here is what people look at. And you can see, obviously, right there, it cut through that gap, went right on up. And when you look at this, though, you're kind of going, well, above that, the reason why you hear a lot of people throwing out the numbers 278, 290, 300, that kind of stuff, because there's not a whole lot of crazy amounts of resistance above these numbers. Don't mean they're going straight up, don't mean anything like that, don't mean it's not going to pull back. But then you can clearly see where the gaps are and where they're not. And so don't be surprised if we get a year-end rally, this thing just continues to surge, right? And maybe that's the time you may get to see NVIDIA and Tesla go up at the same time. But right now, we'll just see, how they're going to digest this, how many people are going to be taking profits like crazy. And again, Tesla goes with the options market, right? You see that today. Clearly, you see that today. I've showed it to you many times. And so if it does come back down, that gap right there is still in play. But right there, here's where we're at, right? It stopped right there. And that resistance area is a tad bit above it. Now, when you look over here at the highlights, I think this is the easiest income statement to ever read for everybody. That's why I put it down here in our Discord for people in the major stocks. And when you pull it up, this shows like Okay, revenue up 8% year over year. Auto, again, auto makes up the majority, right? 25 billion revenue, 20 billion in auto. Okay, now one thing to look at is the bottom down there. Nobody really talks about it, but again, you gotta give them props, right? Energy generation storage, 2.4 billion, up 52% year over year, and then there's the services, 2.8 billion down there, up about, I think it's 29%, and then there's your margins. You know, you come on over there, profit margin like 9% and stuff like that. Again, cost of revenue is 20 billion, but you know, if they can ever, you gotta think to yourself too, you think, man, if they can ever get the robo-taxi thing done, complete, rolling out successfully, the robot thing, the stuff that's supposed to make it a tech company, not just the cars, you know, then imagine what the margins are going to do. And that's what people keep trying to price in, right? They just keep getting these deadlines knocked backwards. And so, you know, we'll see where that goes. Let me know your thoughts on that one. SPX obviously hit this bottom trend line right here. It goes back to July 31st. That'll be our third touch. That's where you see this bounce right here. Now, again, if we break that, not going to be pretty because that's obviously a huge rising wedge coming up. But you can see, again, the perfect timing bounce coming into the time of the year we're in right now. And what you need to see is momentum, right? You see these bounces right here. You can see what a stochastic is, and this is on a daily time frame, and you can see this right here would even come down to the bottom, but you see the turnover, right? So what we need is the stochastic to turn up. It doesn't have to come all the way down to the bottom, nothing like that. Just has to start turning up and start heading towards the top, right? This is all about momentum, and so we need to see momentum start to push back up on this one right here. Again, a lot of people have talked about this when you got bearish divergence on the MACD, on the RSI, no doubt, right? But you see how long it's been doing that, and so you know we're starting to get some play now, right, off of that, starting to come down. That's what you wanted. And so now we get to see if we hold right here. Again, we're back in the box. We're below the 5-day moving average on the daily. It was like, you know, so you're guilty until you can get back above that and start getting that 5-day moving up. And again, this one didn't touch the trend line. It came down. Thought we were going to get a third touch. Not quite. Came into support, obviously, as I showed you yesterday, and got that bounce. We're back in the weekly expected move heading into Friday. So we're at the bottom of it, obviously. And so, you know, we got a gap to fill now to the top. And so we're going to see if they're going to try to push this up, because obviously it was Tesla, you know, and a lot of different stocks trying to push this up today, but it just seemed kind of heavy weighted. So we'll see what happens on Friday on this one. Again, if we come up, you're going to fill that gap right there around 582.70. What you need to start doing though, to get back in the rhythm, start seeing higher lows, higher highs, right? And right there, we'll just kind of mark a few levels out right here. I'm going to take all this stuff away. And so right here at 584.80, right, that's where you want to start breaking if we fill that gap right there. And so that would be nice. That would give us a short term, on a very short term range, a higher high if we get above that right there. And so at the bottom, you see it's 574.46. That's where we bounced from, okay? Now looking at IWM right here, you can see it held that trend line. Again, we bounced to the 0.79 fib, bounced the golden pocket today when it started to sell back down. And so rejected at 0.5 fib. So we're holding right there. The 5-day moving average, I don't really go for it on this one as much. But when you look, you know, what was green today? Bitcoin, miners, and one of our other members, Neil, which I appreciate. He comes up with a lot of good knowledge. Says the Korean stock market that follows IWM, or IWM follows the Korean stock market to a T. And I need to check that out for us. If that's true, I'll just use it. But he comes with a lot of good stuff, so I appreciate that, Neil. And if you got any suggestions, any of you guys out there, always feel free to bring stuff to my attention. And when you look at Bitcoin, again, we're going to Friday, start heading into the weekend. You know, it usually gets major moves over the weekends. And I keep this megaphone pattern in place, and a lot of people get rid of it. I just keep it in place. But if it definitely breaks finally, really truly breaks out of this megaphone pattern, you can see the levels, right? 69, 72, 200, and right up here at the very top of it, 73,824, excuse me. And then there you go into all-time highs from there. So we'll see what happens this weekend. If it obviously runs this weekend, IWM most likely will open up on Monday green. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen tonight, but usually you get these big runs, right? Now, SoFi, again, I keep bringing this one up because I'm thinking it's going to pull back. Look at this thing. It goes up today like 8% or something out of the gate. Immediately, I'm looking for news. Once again, no news. The last real news I had was Fortress with that $2 billion investment and stuff, but there was nothing. And then finally, I came across this, and it was like, when is the last time, if ever, you have seen SoFi third on the list for individual tickers, right behind Tesla and NVIDIA? All right, and that was like around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And so that's what drove this thing up, right? I mean, it's literally been trading like almost like a meme stock, almost trading like Tesla, right? Over the last 3 weeks here. I mean, it's up like almost 40%, right? 8% today, which is that. And this is not one of these high flyers you can see on the chart, right? You have like maybe one time it's tried to do this, maybe twice, but the options market was just driving this thing. There was no news driving it. And you have earnings coming up pretty soon. I believe it's next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And so you see the volume supporting the move up, that's for sure. And so this is, again, that top line is 1170. This was a new 52-week high today. That is not all-time highs. All-time highs are way higher than that, okay? But that is the target if you're looking to get there. And then earnings, because, man, having such a big move up coming in earnings, oh boy. You know, I can't stand it because you got to hang the moon with earnings. That is for sure. And this stock, obviously, you can look back at the other earnings, not really good responses on the earnings. And so, you know, we'll see what happens if they get it to 1170 or not. We'll see if people are going to sell going into earnings or try to hold through earnings on that one. Let me know if you're doing anything with that one. And that leads me into a really short interview. Anytime I can come across an interview, or you guys actually send stuff to me, with the Flows gentleman, Jim Carsons, how you pronounce his name. You know, I always give it to you because nobody covers flows like he does, right? And so he's talking about, you know, what's to look at for the next 2 weeks, and then maybe even going forward a little bit. And it's a very short interview, so pay attention to this real quick.
October expiration has passed, and we're amidst this window of non-strength, what some people call window of weakness, right? This period where those flows have now subsided. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go down, but guess what? You know, go look at the probabilities, go look at history. Here we are again, end of expiration. We're kind of just drifting and floundering a bit. That's just some give back. It's healthy. There's nothing to be alarmed by. We're not crashing. But it's healthy in the context of the flows have now subsided a bit. So if you were long going in OPEX, you took profits. You are now waiting for a period where not everybody is positioned long and looking for an opportunity to re-enter. Now, could that be here? Maybe it's been several days. Could it be 150 points from here? You know, very possibly. Maybe even more probable than here. But the point is, this is not the time to be speculating on long convexity to the upside at this moment. It's all about timelines. They were talking about this week, right? The positioning is such too that it's very cheap to own short-dated options, meaning week to 2 week options before the election. It's more expensive to own post-election, particularly as you get out to December. And the way the curve is priced and positioning is, people are short the expensive stuff in December, and they're long the cheap stuff end of October, November 1st as a hedge. And the part that makes that positioning kind of lose in this window is we grind lower and back end vol stays firm and the front collapses. So that's the most likely probability. Again, it's not a crash. It's not a scenario that you should be super alarmed about. And it should be a buying opportunity and not just a little buying opportunity. I think the market still goes higher from here, and it can start from anywhere from today after this couple day pullback to a week or so plus, a week to 2 weeks from now into the election, with it 100 S&P 150 points lower. It's always going to take it to the point that seems more stressful, or maybe he's wrong. Maybe it's going to be bigger, or it's going to happen quicker than you expect. Never going to be easy, I can tell you that. But that's the higher probability kind of range of outcomes for the next week or two. That said, structurally, there's all kinds of positive flows that I've talked about ad nauseum coming into the end of the year. Some of it's being has been front run. I've called for quite some time that we would be very low vol, grind higher throughout the summer, get a wobble in the fall, something that about 10%. Guess what? We got that. And then that would be a buying opportunity. And then we would rally and hit 6,000, 6,100, maybe higher. All that's still in play. Everything we've said since March still applies. It's just a matter of precise timing. This week, that week, scale and size. Some of this will be affected by the election outcome. Some of this, will be affected by what happens in the Middle East and other things into the end of the year. Those are all still true, but those aren't the primary drivers. The reason we're able to predict this, regardless of kind of who wins, what's happening, all these things that have happened this year, is because the flows are what they are, and the flows are incredibly positive going into the end of the year.
And so hopefully he's right, but you kind of see what's been happening over the last couple of weeks here with the market. So we'll see how that pans out. Let me know what you think in the comments on that. Now, as far as data, you can see we don't have much going on tomorrow. Durable goods orders month over month, and then revised consumer sentiment from the University of Michigan. So that's about it on that one. Again, it's Friday. And so, please hit the like and subscribe button on the way out. Feel free to sign up for the membership if you want to. And I'll end up seeing you guys tomorrow.